Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the WABAN podcast. I am your host, Nim, joined by your co-host, Cub. I think this is the first time we've introduced him as that. We're going to go with that as a nickname for a while, you know. We'll see where that goes. And today we have a guest episode. Our guest is from a YouTube channel called Arken the Amerikan. Introduce yourself, Arken.
Hello there, it's me, Arken, or Jacob, or whatever other name you choose to call me.
Right.
I run the channel. I make some pretty cool videos, I think, and here we are.
All right.
I'm bad at introductions. I've made a bad first impression.
That's okay.
That's fine.
Okay. We made a bad first impression with this entire podcast. Just go to the first episode. Our first episode is titled. I retitled it at one point, and it's titled. What was it? It was
the obligatory awkward first episode.
Yeah, that's what it was. The obligatory awkward first episode.
See, you guys were self-aware. I wasn't, because when I started this, I was a couple weeks away from 14. Wait, no.
Yeah.
A couple weeks away from 15. Yeah. And so, I hate my first video.
Yeah.
I despise it with a passion, just like everybody should.
Yeah, that's good, though. That shows that there's growth, because, you know, you hate the first one, and then you like them better as they go on.
Yeah, because I'll watch back some of my old content sometimes. So, like, from my latest video, or hopefully the one that I'm, like, going to start making this week. So there's that. Then I watch back to, like, this time last year, which it's still crazy to me that the 2020, like, that whole fiasco was a whole year ago by now.
Yeah, I know.
That's still crazy to me, because that feels like a couple months ago in terms of my content.
Yeah,
but then I look back on that. I look back a few months earlier, and then a few months earlier, it was a whole different channel. There was a massive switch at the start of the pandemic.
Oh yeah, okay. So do you want to like talk a little bit about your channel then, like maybe the history of it, all that kind of stuff? Yeah, just
sure.
Anything.
I've thought about this a lot, about like how I got from point A to point, I want to say B, but it's more like point E or F or G at this point.
Yeah.
The channel started out, the story of the channel is a little bit depressing, because so there was a you don't care about, like, let's say not family friendly topics, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's not fun. So there was a shooting that took place at our local synagogue. I'm Jewish. Most people I know are Jewish. So that was impactful. He was shot up by a white supremacist. I think he's been sentenced to life just a couple weeks ago, actually. Mm-hmm. Most people in San Diego still remember this. Or at least all of the Jews do, at least. But so this was 9 miles from where I live in Poway. Wow. And so I was like, and I was watching the way that the national media and political figures were covering it. And I was like, wait, no, something's wrong here. This isn't how it should be. So about a week after the shooting, I started composing a script for my first video. It took me 5 months to write that script. It was like 10 pages when I was done with it. It was bad. It was let's make that clear. It was a bad script. Okay. But the whole crux of what I was trying to say is that, like, we're going about this wrong. Everybody agrees that this was a bad thing. Obviously, mass shooting by a white supremacist, double whammy. But the way people were going about it, I thought was wrong. And I just kind of talked about that. I didn't like the way it was being needlessly politicized by both sides.
Right.
And that was the starting. That's like, it's important to understand where I came from with that, because that was the very start of the channel. And again, I really hope you don't mind the political side of things, because that is intricately tied to the story of the channel.
Sorry, I know your content is
I know,
a lot of
overtly
political stuff. Yeah.
I'm trying to like keep that off of here because I like your podcast, but it's I kind of have to. So because background at that time, I've had a weird story with politics because I started to get into politics when I was in like 8th grade. I was 12 or something like that, which is way too young to be getting into politics.
Right.
Let's start with that. But I got pulled very quickly into this online conservative right-wing sphere, which was not great for me and my intellectual development. But I was just starting to come out, like, because for me that was the first sort of alarm bell in my head of like, oh wait, a white supremacist just shot up our local synagogue and killed a member of the community. Hold on, something's wrong here. Around that, a few months later, I have a friend good friend of mine, for a long time, we started talking about, politics, and he was this like full-on far-right, I would borderline fascist, right?
Ooh, okay.
And I was like, wait, is this where I'm going? I don't want to go there. That ain't right. So, and this was right before, this is still weird to think about for me in 2021, but this was right before the coronavirus pandemic, like 6 months before. And so I started out the channel from this sort of pseudo-conservative perspective. So my next video was about the impeachment that was going on with the former president. Then I did a video defending the idea of American exceptionalism, did some stuff making fun of then candidate Biden. And it really, looking back on it, really just looks like bad conservative punditry. Right. But then stuff started to happen. I started to think sort of to myself, and I saw what was going on in the world with the certain things that the president was doing and the way politics was going. I was like starting to reconsider things. And by the start of the pandemic, I knew I didn't like Trump, but I also knew I didn't like the Democrats either very much. Right. Because they got problems. So I was sort of in this weird position of like, not pro-Trump, but anti-Trump. Very weird position to be in.
Right.
And then the pandemic hit, March, right? I get sent home along with everybody else, in everywhere. in public
pretty
schools.
Much.
Just about everybody I know, at least, was sent home, public and private.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was sent home from college. I mean,
I know Parks returned. This was right around the time I started watching him. He came back from Florida to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But everybody was sent home, and I got a lot of time. The end of the school year was kind of just nonsense. I mean, they gave us assignments every week or so, but it wasn't school. It wasn't. It was barely even an online class. It was the easiest A's I've ever earned. So I had plenty of free time to just make videos and to read and to research and to like think to myself. Then I saw a story that, this is important. This is going to seem stupid, but it's important.
Okay.
There was a story that came out of Hungary, small Eastern European country, in like April or so, March or April of 2020. Their prime minister or president, I believe prime minister though, Viktor Orban, he has now been in office for 10 years, and he is basically a dictator. He suspended the parliament. He started using the military to enforce his decrees. By the way, he rules by decree. He controls the media. He's basically, as another creator described him, he's Goulash Putin, essentially.
Okay, right.
And I was looking at this, and this was severely concerning to me. So I started making a video called Eastern Europe and Democracy, a case study. I started researching. I realized it would get too big, that I wouldn't have the time, and that, frankly, I wasn't good enough for this yet. So I zeroed in on one country where I thought research would be really easy, Russia. So that became Russia and Democracy, a case study. That was a big turning point for me. Because that's when I started looking into how do authoritarians come to power, what role does like populism and economic whatever the hell play in this, and what are the sort of, how do you defend a democracy, which is an inherently fragile system of government and of social organization.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big turn for me and my content. So then the next video was the enemies of democracy, which I've defined as apathy, wealth inequality, and complacency.
Mm-hmm.
Then I did one on the importance of liberalism. Another one on sort of the misuse of certain terms. That was a dumb video. We don't need to talk about that one.
Okay.
Took a little break to do some history stuff because I was getting bored. Then I went really hard after the former president about his sort of weird brand of populism. And then I started talking about, for a few months, like I don't like watching back those videos. They're boring to me. This is around like the election last year, where I did a video on Trump. I did a video on the importance of third parties and why we need, more of them, or any of them. I did one on reformism. I did one on the principles behind liberty, and more generally, democracy.
Right.
I was in that sphere, right, of like just defending. I was just trying to defend liberal democracy in a moment where half the country was saying that the election was fraudulent, the president was refusing to concede a democratic election, all this stuff.
Yeah, right.
January 6th happens, right as this happens while I'm trying to release another video dealing with YouTube's copyright crap. And then January 6th happens, this like watershed moment.
Mm-hmm.
Which sort of changed everything for me again. Do you see why I'm saying I'm like point G now? I've been talking about this for 5
Yeah,
10
you have like all these different points where things changed, yeah.
There's because so many things have happened. First of all, I'm young, right? Like quite young. So I'm not done developing. I wasn't then, I'm not now. I'm very aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
And combine that with all the political crap that's going on. And there are so many different flashpoints. If I actually described them all, I would be waffling on for 20 or so minutes or more.
Yeah.
So, but I'll try to wrap it up because we're getting to the present here. January 6th happens. I do a video on January 6th. Very controversial to this day, but gave my take, which you can probably guess, not very positive.
Right.
I spent 6 weeks working on a video about Antifa, or Anti-Fascist Action, a anarchist political group. I did a video on them. And then then there's the reason I'm here, the Star Wars video that I spent 4 months on.
Yeah.
I started rewatching Star Wars and Clone Wars when I was getting to the finishing stages of the Antifa video. It was published in mid-March. I wanted to have the Star Wars video released on May 4th.
Yes, it was much later than that.
You don't say. It was almost 3 months later. It was a couple weeks short of being 3 months later. Mm-hmm. I ended up publishing it on the 25th of July.
Yep.
I had an interesting summer. But that's pretty much, that's the present. Because I did this video. It was going to be 10-15 minutes. It turned out to be this massive 80-minute long documentary, really. That has, massively blown up since then, which is still insane to me.
Yeah.
And I'm entering, once again, this new era for my content. There have been 3, if I had to break it up, there have been 3 main content eras counting now. There has been my weird pseudo-conservative phase until, May 2020. There was then until about March this year. And then there's now, what I'm trying to start now, which is more sort of divided between short videos, like 4 or 5 minutes, what I'm working on right now, and massive, like, long form projects in the vein of the Star Wars video. Not on Star Wars. For anybody watching this, I am not turning it into a Star Wars channel. We're not doing that. But mind you, there are videos on Star Wars on my list, but not for a while. I need a break, honestly. I'll still be streaming it and everything and watching whatever comes out, but I need a break from Star Wars. After 4 months of working on it,
it's a lot.
It's not me, it's you. Wait, I did that wrong. It's not you, it's me.
Close enough.
Yeah, whatever.
That's been the story. I've been talking for like 10 minutes. I feel like an asshole.
That's okay. I mean, you are the guest, so it's like, it's more about getting to know you and stuff, kind of.
Name Larry King.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I'd just like to say, I don't care what your opinion is on politics. If you are capable of taking in new information and changing your mind, you deserve to be applauded. So good on you. Even though that shouldn't be such a big thing.
Yeah, even though that should be anyone, but
Yeah, well, that's kind of the big problem we're facing right now, right? Is that we have all over the country, but especially in one very specific part of the country that starts with R and ends with Republican.
Subtle.
But you have one very large. I'm sorry. You have one very large part of the country that will see new information, objective facts. A prime example of this, though not the most egregious, is climate change, right? Where you have the entire scientific world, minus like 2 studies from Greenpeace, which say, actually, there is rapid man-made climate change. We should deal with that, maybe. Well, but we need more evidence to come to light.
Yeah, right.
But it's not 100% scientific consensus. Look at this one study. Look at our Antarctica is gaining ice. Never mind that the Arctic is losing twice that every year, but science. But that's the big problem now, right? Is that people will see information, see, great, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've always sort of tried to be like willing to listen to new information, kind of maybe change and mold my opinion about like what new information I get rather than just kind of staying where I am. Because I feel like even me personally over the past, however, 5 years or so, have probably changed my like little bits of my political opinions a lot, so yeah.
Yeah, no, for me, because we seem to venerate like do you remember in 2016 and later in 2020 when Hillary Clinton came out saying that like, oh, I support gay rights, and people turned to her statements like 8 years ago when she was saying, along with the rest of the Democratic Party, no, marriage is between a man and a woman. And people were saying this is some kind of hypocrisy. Like, are people not allowed to change their opinions anymore? What's the deal with that?
Yeah. Yeah, and like maybe there is a chance that it was actually hypocrisy and she was just saying it to appeal to like newer people or whatever. But at the same time, like I would tend to take things at like, take people for their word and just kind of be like, people change.
There's a thing called the benefit of the doubt, which we've totally forgotten about by now. But I mean,
it's true.
Yeah, people's views change. New information does come to light, or new revelations are made. Like for me, it's just time. It just it needs time to marinate in your brain. Like certain things that I will have been presented with the same information, like a year ago, and I say no, that's bullshit. And then a year ago, like a year later, with new life experiences, slightly altered view on the world, and sort of new circumstances to look at it in, I'll be like, oh yeah, maybe that does make sense. Okay, let me rethink this.
Yeah,
changing positions. Yeah. This is what elections should be. They're not, but it's what they should be about. It's trying to change people's point of view. This is why we have the same like 50-50 split in every single election nowadays, because we've locked ourselves in that mindset of, you can't change your views. Everything is a sacred principles. But no, you're supposed to change your views in a democracy. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, and it's sort of everyone is learning and growing and changing and working together to slowly figure out the what works best, kind of, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. It's that, and we're not trying to do that now. We're all trying to go each sort of faction in politics, but really just the big two. They're constantly trying to go it alone. They're not trying to compromise anymore, so why bother? There's a thing on a podcast just like this with a former congressman that I listened to. I didn't know about this, but I checked. It's true. I don't remember what year, but when Paul Ryan was the Speaker of the House about 10, 15 years ago, because the House and the Senate make their own rules, their own procedures. And they can change it at will. It doesn't require a law or anything. It just requires it requires the Speaker to say, this is how it's going to be. And I think also, I'm not sure, but potentially also a vote from the House and Senate.
Right.
But Speaker Ryan, in his day, abolished amendments to bills. So it used to be that when you proposed a bill, other lawmakers could come in and suggest amendments to it to try to make it appealing to as many lawmakers as possible, and to help it get passed. Maybe not in its original form, but that's democracy for you. He removed that. We don't have that anymore. And Nancy Pelosi has continued it. She continues it to this day. There are no amendments on bills in the House. And because most bills originate in the House, well, that's how you end up with the hyper-partisanship we have now.
Well, yeah, there's that, and also that probably prevents a lot of bills from being passed, which therefore prevents things from getting done. So nothing happens, nothing gets done because
That's the whole deadlock. Well, deadlock goes back further than that. It goes back to the era of Nixon and divided government, and then Newt Gingrich. But this has solidified it, I think, to crystalline perfection, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
We've absolutely crystallized around this kind of almost. We almost revel in the deadlock at this point. I feel like a little bit. It's like, yeah, we're deadlocked. Let's keep doing that.
Like we're just sitting there watching the train wreck in fascination.
Yeah, it is kind of like watching. I assume how Europeans look at us. It's like, eating not popcorn because they have better health regulations, but they'll be sitting back eating, I don't know, Swedish fish or something, and. I'm being racist against Europeans, but they'll sit back just watching the fire unfold, and it is like watching a train wreck sometimes.
You can't look away. Yeah. So, trying to think where else we can go. So yeah, I guess one other thing. One other question I could get into is so in general, what are your overall career goals, and how does sort of your YouTube channel in any way contribute to that or anything, or how do you factor into that? Yeah.
Yeah, this is a question that I could almost rehearse for my college applications, but because UC asks where do you want to go with your career, but for me, I have always been fascinated with, and I'm currently very much taking part in that. I have always been fascinated with journalism, with the Fourth Estate, especially now that journalism is in such a screwed place as it is, where the code of ethics is they might as well be wiping their crap with it. The code of ethics is a joke at this point.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And there's a journalism class in my high school. I'm going there for my 4th year. I am the chief editor by now, as of this year. And we each year we teach our writers the code of ethics, the Society of Professional Journalists Code of Ethics. It's a bit like a small constitution. It's just that there's no way to enforce it, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's it's more or less there. Like the industry as a whole is supposed to kind of like accept it,
but they don't.
Yeah.
And I don't sometimes. I mean, we're imperfect people, right? People make mistakes. The important part is recognizing that you've made mistakes and not doing it again.
Yes, learning from the mistakes.
Fixing it the first time. Learning mistakes
happen, the only reason why mistakes are worth anything is because we can learn from them.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, that's literally how being human is supposed to work, or how being human works is like nobody's perfect, but you grow and learn as you go along based on mistakes that you make or mistakes you see other people make, and you can make better decisions because of that. That's
yeah. But for me, I want to go into hopefully, because it's a difficult profession. It's not a profession that pays super well. So if I can't get into like a good institution, like at least one of the UCs, I might have to reconsider, because like, sure, the LA Times pays $100,000 a year, nice, but the San Diego Union Tribune by comparison pays $60,000. That's the median earnings of the country, and I live in California in the year 2021. That will be quite insufficient.
Yeah.
Have you seen our housing prices?
Yeah, I was gonna say California is known for being expensive to live in.
You don't say. The house that my family lives in right now, it is almost, if not already, it has doubled in value in the 6 years we've bought it. And it's not like we've developed it a ton. It's just that is how much the housing prices have jumped.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing.
Oh yeah, that is.
So and I guess I should answer the second part of your question. How does YouTube factor into that?
Oh yes.
It doesn't really, because I don't want YouTube to be my, primary source of income. It might be at certain points, but that's not something I want to maintain. It's not something I want to do as a career. One, it's not stable. YouTube has stood the test of time a lot better than most of us expected, but it's not infinite. It's not immortal. It's going to go eventually. And if you don't make it there, I'd be kind of screwed, because there's no real platform to step in and take their place at the moment. What do you got? Vimeo? Really? In fact, I think Vimeo closed down last year. I'm not sure, but
I think they still exist.
Do they?
I believe so, because I feel like I've encountered Vimeo at some point in recently.
Yeah, they're still alive. Was it Vimeo that got? I know one of the like wannabe YouTubes died.
Yeah. I think is it? Because I remember. I think I remember when that was a thing too. Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, it's not. It's not gone, but it might as well be. In 2021, the vid.me domain name was acquired by a pornography company.
Oh.
So thus ends the tale of VidMe.
Oh, so the domain name exists somewhere, but not.
As a result, news article or social media posts with an embedded VidMe video displayed instead hardcore pornography. Nice. No, VidMe, why?
Nice. No. Wow. Yeah, I think at one point I made a VidMe account, like, because I almost like was thinking, I was like, maybe it would be a good idea to like post videos on YouTube, but also other websites, but I never did. I never ended up doing that. I think I like made an account at one point, or maybe I didn't. I don't remember, but yeah, that's funny.
I've had a lot of people who tell me, like, because I've had two big run-ins with YouTube. Really one, but two. I've had two big run-ins with the YouTube enforcers. The first one was on a video that I was making, like, just as January 6th was happening, about Black Lives Matter, which might actually explain why I had so much trouble uploading it. But in my defense, I tried in December. It wasn't January yet, so I don't count that. But I was trying to upload this video, and it's one of my more milquetoast kind of boring videos. It's not talking about the death of democracy or how nuclear weapons could end the world. it's not talking about anything crazy like that. It's just talking about like the problem. The video is literally called I believe it's called Black Lives Matter's marketing problem, or something like the problem with Black Lives Matter's marketing tactics. It's literally just about how they market themselves and their message. But that got flagged for guess what? For violent or graphic content. I have no idea why. And I tried censoring every single, even remotely violent clip in the video. It didn't work. Thankfully, a friend of mine, LSP, the Liberal Sanity Project, re-uploaded it on his channel, and it actually worked for him for some reason. That was the first big run-in I had with YouTube. And I made a little update video on my channel, which is still up, because I want people to go watch that video and also to go subscribe to LSP, because he's great. And a lot of the comments on my update video were saying, oh, you should go to BitChute. Have you ever heard of BitChute?
No. Yes. I've heard of it, but I don't really know much about it.
Imagine if YouTube, you know the meme where history YouTubers will replace the swastika with the YouTube logo?
Mm.
Imagine that, but inverted. That's BitChute.
Okay.
Like, it's fascist YouTube, basically, in effect. And I was like, I want to go on there. Not everybody on there is a fascist, but most.
The whole point is probably like, it's like YouTube, but no censorship whatsoever.
That's exactly it. And of
that's
course,
why,
because of the whole conservative victim narrative, most of the most popular people on there are ranging from hard right to crazy conspiracy theorists.
Mm-hmm.
So, but definitely not somewhere I want to be as a liberal Jew.
For sure. Yeah, that makes sense. See, I think it's tends to be better to stick with something like YouTube, just because like that's where people go. That's where everyone goes. Like the most amount of people go. You get there's a very wide variety of audiences and wide variety of people that you could find on YouTube.
Yeah, there's the other thing is that it's reliable. Like, by and large, especially if you're not reliant on monetization, it is a fairly reliable platform. You can rely on it to work more or less. I have to add that asterisk because you know how you do it. But you run a YouTube channel, you know how it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it is more or less reliable. It is a great platform for producing videos. And sorry to burst your bubble, they don't censor people. More like, by and large, they don't censor people. They will kick and ban the most extreme people, but they don't shadow ban people for their political views. At least they do, but not for politics. They don't shadow ban people. They don't censor comments. I found a fair few people in my comment sections who were saying, "Oh, YouTube are censoring our comments." Wait until they realize I'm censoring their comments.
Yeah, I was going to say, you have the ability to
and I use it extensively
from your own channel. Yeah, I would use it if I had to.
The amount of far right loons that I've gotten on especially my Star Wars video is concerning. I have deleted and blocked a lot of their comments, and I am not ashamed of that. No, sweetie, YouTube doesn't censor your comments. I do.
Yeah. Right. They give YouTube gives the creator the ability to censor their own comment sections, because, that makes sense. It's your own channel.
Exactly.
Right. I know there have been times I've had to delete comments, not many, but there were like a few times I got like spam comments of like a link to like a porn site somewhere. And I was like, I've only gotten it a couple times, so I was like, why?
It's a bot. It
definitely is. It definitely is, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of those bot comments you get occasionally where it's just like you clearly just a random.
I wonder if anybody falls for that bait.
I don't know. I mean, what if you like saw, because like it was like a link that was like no context or anything. It was just a link.
That's true.
Just a link.
It's mysterious. You're drawn in by the unknown. So
I was curious. I was like, okay, I'll click on the link, and it was like some, I don't know, some porn site. It was either that or like a meet people near you for sex, or it was one of those type of things.
One of those very credible websites.
One of those that you just see all the time.
Nationally syndicated.
That are definitely completely true, and you'll definitely really meet somebody. One of those websites.
One of those towers of intellectualism.
But yeah, no, I haven't had any like real comments usually that are bad that I've had to delete. I don't think.
I have a few. I made a channel on my Discord server to archive some of them, especially because I have to delete a lot of them. There was one guy, one charming fellow, who, do you know in Clone Wars in Season 6 when Palpatine's giving his "Long Live the Banks" speech?
Yes.
Which I highlighted in my video. And some dude, again, liberal Jew here, and this dude comments, "Hard not to notice Palpatine's hooked nose as he says, 'Long live the Banks.'" good going, buddy. So, like sometimes you just have to censor comments. It's not a matter of choice.
Yeah, there's definitely certain things that I would just be like, yeah, no, this is gone.
It's just maybe a little bit much.
Yeah. I'm revoking your speech privileges.
Well, you can also block somebody from being able to comment on your channel.
And I've done that. Too. I've had to do it. Unfortunately, I don't like it. Like, I don't like going into my comments section and seeing all these assholes who I need to delete and block from commenting, especially when it's like a wall of them, which I get sometimes. I don't want that. I don't want to block people. That's not fun. I use Twitter, but that doesn't mean I enjoy using Twitter. I don't like blocking people.
Yeah. I feel like that's definitely an issue I would run into more if I was like bigger. Because the thing is, like, my channel is not very big. Like, your channel's definitely bigger. You get more views than I do.
Because my video,
Well, right. But even before that, I think your channel was already bigger than mine.
It was already at like 2K or so, below 2K.
Yeah,
but it was over 1,000.
Yeah, which like I'm at like 220 or something.
Something like that. Probably after I subscribed like an hour ago.
Yeah, there you go. There was a new one.
Congratulations, 220.
Woo! But that was one of the. That's one thing I don't look forward to. Like if the channel ever grows more, is like just dealing with stuff like that. Although I feel like
you're less prone to that than I am.
Yeah, right. You're more prone to it because your content is more political, so it definitely.
And especially because I've attracted a lot of the like fandom menace types. The Kathleen Kennedy is Satan, Dave Filoni is our Lord and Savior. Disney is evil, that whole crowd.
Right. Oh, yeah. See, I know people like that in real life, like a decent amount. So,
not many.
Like, I'm pretty sure, maybe people I'm related to, just, that's, but yeah, it's crazy, just all that, yeah.
See, for me, because I'm at the one time I'm balancing my regular politics stuff, which I'm very used to. I'm very knowledgeable in that field. I know how to navigate those rough waters. With Star Wars, I am navigating so many different weird fandom subcultures, which I am not very familiar with because I don't belong to any of them. I don't like any of them.
Oh yeah, there's when you get into the Star Wars fandom in general, it gets there's a lot of different sides to it and different sides that hate each other like a lot.
Yeah, it'll get bloody, won't it?
And it's like I don't know. Like it's a series of movies and TV shows like that I really like. Well, like some of them I don't like other ones, but like that are whatever good and everything. But like at the end of the day, it's just pieces of entertainment. Like you don't have to like kill each other over it.
Mm-hmm.
Like
that's my whole. That's this is why not why, but it's part of the reason why I admire Parks so much, because he has successfully, from what I can tell, managed to foster a community of not just Star Wars fans, but almost all of us also are Star Wars fans, including me and you.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And that's how we know each other, through Parks.
Yes.
But Parks has successfully managed, just because he himself is this genuinely good person, at least from what I can tell.
Yeah,
I think he is.
For sure.
And he, just because of his own goodwill and the way he talks about things, the sort of nuance that he gives them, has fostered this very kind and very understanding subculture of Star Wars, which I would like to help expand. That was part of my mission with the video. Beyond just like, this is the political message of the prequels, I also wanted to sort of bring us a bit closer to unity, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where it's like, okay, you might have your favorite Star Wars movie might be different than mine, but I'm not gonna like yell at you and think you're an idiot for it.
Yeah, like
it's
I know,
just a different opinion.
I know Parks and I vehemently disagree on The Mandalorian Season 2. I liked it, but I think it's severely flawed and overdid it with the cameos. Whereas he loves it. He thinks it's great. We disagree. Big deal.
We just all need to take a step back and realize that at the end of the day, Star Wars is about space wizards, so, you know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
That's not all it's about. I mean, I did make an 80-minute documentary on the politics of Star Wars, but yeah, pretty much it's a space opera about wizards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It has a lot of interesting stuff in there, but it's, again, it's a fictional.
At the end of the day,
fictional world.
People take politics too seriously in some places. In other places, they don't, which is why they're showing memes in the Senate now. I'm not kidding, but. This is an actual thing. Certain senators who I'm not going to name, but you can take a guess. Certain senators have, like, legit, they show memes in Congress.
That's so weird.
Ridiculous. But
got to appeal to the kids, even though there's no kids in this room.
In terms of the intensity, we take politics way too seriously. And I feel like we take Star Wars even more seriously, almost. Like, among us, yeah. Star Wars... God damn it, I just said the thing. But among the Star Wars fan community, we take it so seriously. Lighten up.
Yeah, I know. It's
there's so many different factions. It makes politics look simple. You have the sort of various subcultures with, like, Parks, for example, with something I'm trying to expand. And you'll find it in a few other places across YouTube, like Eckhart's Ladder, I think, is a really good example of this. Geetsley's, a lot of the lore channels, actually. Not all of them, but a lot of them are really good examples of this. Then you have the Fandom Menace, right? The worst part of them all. You have the Dying Generation, the original trilogy purists.
Right.
You have the sort of what I'm going to call the universalists, the people who say, "Oh, all of it is good. Every last bit of it." My uncle is one of these people who thinks that everything Star Wars ever made, except The Last Jedi, is really good.
I mean, if that's your opinion, that's
exactly
fine.
Right. So we'll talk about it, we'll argue about it, but we won't get mad about it.
Yeah,
End of
exactly.
The day, it's Star Wars.
Right. We'll disagree. If your favorite Star Wars movie isn't The Empire Strikes Back, I'll be okay with that, I guess.
See, I don't get to get mad at people for not thinking that the same Star Wars film is the best as me, because I'm in the minority and I know that. I'm very aware of that.
Which one is your favorite then?
For me, I think I talked about it in the video. It's Revenge of the Sith for me.
Okay. Yeah. It's I can see why. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, typically, people have their own sort of reasons for having a different one as their favorite. So it's like,
because it's how you interact with it. Ultimately, it's a piece of media. It's content that you interact with in one way or another, and that is going to shape your opinion of it. There is no objective answer to what is good or what is the best thing in a piece of media. There's no objective facts here, just a lot of opinions.
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is, it all depends on what you personally get out of it, and you might get something out of one of them that I don't get out of it. Like
and that's part of the thing I wanted to do. I wanted to share that with more people.
Yeah,
my sort of unique, I think, view on Star Wars. That was part of it.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've made a video on Star Wars. Probably, but yeah. No, it has actually been a while since I've posted anything that's not the podcast on this channel, on my YouTube channel.
How long?
Well, 10 months apparently.
Oh damn, that's like.
Yeah. So I've been working on these, which I've mentioned this in the Discord channel, the Discord server that we're both on. So you probably have seen this, seen me mention it. But I've been working on this
which Discord server?
The Artorium, Artor. Yeah. I was talking to you. that one.
Cypher's Artorium. I don't have a name. I don't get to have a cool name like that. I have the Situation Room.
Situation Room.
As in the one in the White House.
Oh, yeah. I don't even have a
boy, are there a lot of
Discord
situations going on there.
I've mentioned there before, but like I've been working on this 3-part video series on the character arc of Zuko in Avatar, The Last Airbender. And I procrastinate a lot when it comes to writing. So it's just kind of a...
I'll put it like this for you. Columbus Day is in 6 days. I have had a month to make this video. I started writing it yesterday.
Nice. Yeah, there you go.
I'll have a fun rest of the week.
Exactly. That's kind of how I am a lot. It's like procrastinate and then crunch at the last minute. It's not great, but the thing is too, I haven't set like a deadline for it. It's just kind of like whenever I get it done, I will do it. So it's kind of just open to
you whatever. Don't have the deadline to give you the crunch time then. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I have occasionally worked on it. I've worked on it a little bit today. I finished the scripts for the first 2 videos, and I'm going to do the script for the third. I didn't want to like finish one of the videos and then start working on one of the other ones. I wanted to kind of like, so I don't want them to be released like one and then another one 2 months later and the part 3 months later,
Yeah.
Because I hate when that happens on, like, people do that on YouTube. It's like, I watched part 1 to something.
I got this close. I almost did that.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, now I got to wait for how long is it going to take them to do the next part? And then it's like, so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to write the scripts to all 3 of them before I even start recording and editing. I'm going to do it all kind of together so I can do like 1 a week when I do release them. So it's not like, yeah. But I'll eventually complete that. I think the thing too is like, so I first watched watched Avatar for the first time ever, like almost a year ago now, probably about a year ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And since then I have currently watched it 6 times. And it has become like one of my favorite shows. So when I started working on the scripts, I had only seen the show maybe twice. And then at this point, so like I was rereading and making changes because I've seen it so many more times now that I like know the show way better.
Yeah.
Like just from memory that I can be like, oh wait, I should change this line. This makes more sense based on what's actually in the show. So I was like changing the script. So part of me is glad that I waited that long, that I've been taking this long, because now I have like a more, probably better opinions on it, or at least more refined opinions, because I've seen it so many more times, talked about it so many more times, heard other people's opinions.
It pays to take that time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for me, I have, a bit more serious than that. Not to belittle your work. I'm sure it's going to be great. But I have a bit more of a serious topic, which is the Holocaust, which I want to do someday. Wait, no, not like that.
I'm just saying that's a tough one to cover.
It's very well. It's obviously like close personal to me, whatever. But for me, I don't want to talk about numbers. I don't care how many people died or how they died, for that matter. None of it matters to me. That's the logistical part, which is nice for trivia shows, but not very important. The important part of the Holocaust for me isn't this many people died, which I think the current estimate is like 6.5 million, but it's not 6.5 million people died, or they died in gas chambers, or they died to death squads, or they starved to death. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how. It matters that they died and that they were killed by a totalitarian regime, and that regime's agenda, their orders, were carried out by, as Christopher Browning puts it in his book, so titled Ordinary Men, those orders were carried out by ordinary men. They weren't carried out by evil monsters. They were carried out by dudes just like you and me. That's the scary part, and that's what I want to do.
Yeah, well, that's actually interesting, because I was just, I think earlier today, watching a YouTube video that part of, like, the video wasn't about that, but it was like it brought that up as like to reference for part of what the video was talking about.
Was it by like Stories of Old, perchance?
No. It was.
I know he's brought up Hannah Arendt's work in the past, and that's a big source of my research.
So it was actually a video. Surprise, surprise! I watched a video about Zuko and his character arc in Avatar, and there was a portion of the video where he brought this up as this idea of sometimes of, like, you know, how in the show it's shown that like the Fire Nation is mostly like ordinary people who aren't necessarily evil, who are driven to do evil things, kind of those part of the video talking about that. And he used that as like a comparison. And I actually thought that was really interesting, like just looking at, you know, not everybody who was a Nazi was evil, terrible.
Most weren't. I'll say it, screw it. Most Nazis were not evil. Maybe they were bad people, but they weren't evil people. They weren't malicious. Most of them, not all, definitely not all, but most of them were just ordinary folks like you and me. And, well, actually, even like me. Because what most people don't know is that on the ground, most of the Holocaust was carried out by local Jewish leaders, or it was organized by local Jewish leaders. They organized the trucks and the trains and everything, and they worked with local Nazi governments to create the Holocaust.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where it's just kind of if you were, you know, raised in a different situation, a different time period, a different place, how would you sort of view the world, and how would you be different, and you know, what kind of things would you do that you would never think of doing where you are at now in your life, you know?
Yeah. Like, okay, if my parents never left the USSR, if they stayed in Russia or Ukraine and somehow still had me and my brother, would I be a liberal political analyst aspiring to be a journalist? Probably not.
Right. And yeah, exactly. And it's, you know, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like realizing that a lot of them were just average people, you know, kind of driven to do these things based on their, you know, their, I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but their, you know, how they were indoctrinated and everything like that. It's almost scary in a way, I think. And I think that's why people like to think of it as everybody who does something evil is a terrible evil person.
Because it makes it easier for us. It's a coping mechanism. Right. But it's not true, and that's important to recognize. Right. This is why. So my video was planned for Holocaust Remembrance. First it was planned for winter this year. Then Holocaust Remembrance Day on January 27th. Now it's planned for January 27th, 2023. It'll probably be pushed back by another year or two, because this is a very serious topic for me especially, and yes. I need to get that, I cannot make mistakes on that. I need to get that right to the mark.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is a perfect example of something that's take your time to do it right, not let's rush it out because I want to get it out there, you know?
Yeah. Because I'm sure I could make the same basic point about human nature, whatever, but I want to make sure that point is very clearly communicated and very well supported.
Mm-hmm. Right. You want to do proper research, proper.
Yeah. I have like a list of 10 plus books right now that I need to read and reread for that video. That's why I'm pushing it off so much, because I do want to make other videos in the meantime.
Yeah. 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 But no, that's definitely, that'll definitely be interesting when you do it. I'll definitely, I mean, even if it's like, 2, 3, 4, who knows how many years from now, I'll watch it.
I tell you, I don't plan things that far ahead, but this thing, I'm like, I know I need years for this, at least. I am not there yet. I am not ready for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and it can also help to give yourself a few years maybe to grow and learn yourself, to change, maybe have a more nuanced perspective than you would have otherwise. Yeah.
That's the other thing. Let me tell you that there's one really horrific story out of it, which I know I'm going to use in my video. So there's this Yiddish song, Mein Städtele Bells. I'm sure I mispronounced that horribly, but it's about imagine my shock. It's about a shtetl called Bells in the Pale settlement, which I don't know what the subject of the song. I don't speak Yiddish. I don't care. But it was a song that was apparently near and dear to one, I believe, Polish boy's heart, Polish Jew, in Auschwitz, or in either Auschwitz, probably Auschwitz, I think. And so I'm listening to this song. I kind of scroll down in the comments, and I look through, and I find this one story, which I confirm through the BBC. There was this one kid who was sitting, playing and singing this song as people were being sent to the gas chambers in Auschwitz. And one of the SS officers noticed his singing, and he noticed how it sort of calmed down the prisoners as they were about to be brutally murdered. And so he's like, go boy, play for the, make crowd control easier. Right? This is like cartoon villain shit, right?
Yeah.
But he wasn't a cartoon villain. He was a dude trying to do his job. He just wanted to get... It sounds horrible. Because it is. He wanted to get these people out of here, get them dealt with, and go home. That's all he wanted. And that's the scary part, is that you can compartmentalize those kinds of things. You can think of it in that way, of the mass slaughter of an entire group of people as just another job, just another thing that I got to do before I go home. That's the scary part.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like a lot of people don't really want to think of it in that way in a lot of ways, because they don't want to see it.
They don't, because they know it, because then you have to accept that it's in you as well.
Yeah, that anybody could be driven to do terrible things.
There's this woman.
Circumstances were right.
There's this woman, Hannah Arendt, who is a big source of my research. She wrote pretty much the seminal work on Holocaust psychology called Eichmann in Jerusalem, A Report on the Banality of Evil. And that's the second part that's important, the banality of evil, meaning evil is within all of us. All of us are capable of performing it. No one is immune, no matter how hard they try.
Right.
No one is sanctified from it, And she got so much backlash from this in the 1960s when she published it. Because she is one of the main people who publicized this idea that a lot of Jewish leaders were complicit in the Holocaust, which is not something anybody wanted to admit, but it's true. She was very controversial at the time. I wonder why. It's not because there were that many Nazis in the 1960s. No, it's because people don't want to confront this idea, but it's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, it's just the darker side of human psychology, that's hard to face. Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think what else we got.
I mean, I got something just
sure.
to try to brighten the mood before we go.
Sure.
So I guess it's your most popular video right now, right? The Star Wars.
By far, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a deep dive into a fantasy world's political system, which just kind of got me thinking about what other, forms of media and stories you can do that with, either movies, TV shows, books, even video games. So, like, what are ones that you would want to do in the future?
Okay, I could list them off the top of my head, but I have an actual list, which I'm going to open here in Google Docs, because I have a video list. It is a couple years old by now. It has, let me check how many points exactly, but it has a lot of points in it. It has about 130 video ideas there. And that number has never once shrunk for longer than a couple days. So,
jeez.
Yeah. But so at the bottom here, I have a section with like the sort of what I'm calling media analysis videos. So there's the How Liberty Dies, the one that I finished. I have another one, basically the exact same format, but for the original trilogy, starting in, the Bad Batch times, the end of Revenge of the Sith,
right,
to like maybe right after Return of the Jedi, like the Battle of Jakku, Formation of the New Republic. I am not going to do something like that for the sequels until I am given a very good reason to, but I want to do that with the originals because and that's
you can avoid the sequels. That's fine.
Yeah, and that's going to be it's the same format because it's the same basic idea, but at the same time it's going to be very different in that in the video that I already made, I covered 3 films and a 7-season show, which is like a lot. But in this, I'm going to cover 3 films, 2 Bad Batch is going to get its own video someday, but 2 shows, 3 if I go for Mandalorian, a video game in Jedi Fallen Order, and all sorts of stuff in between that I have to connect all together and make coherent. That's going to be very hard, and I'm not going to do it for... I've said I'm not going to do another Star Wars video for at least another year, maybe more, and I don't think that's going to be it. I don't think I'm up for it yet. I need to recover.
Right.
But I'll just go over the Star Wars stuff. There's that. There's I have one on The Last Jedi because I happen to actually really like The Last Jedi, despite its obvious flaws. Canto.
Yeah.
Right. But I found it to be a very enjoyable film with really... The reason I like it, of course, me, the analytical person that I am, it was the only one with actual themes in it.
That out of the new 3, yes, I would agree with that. Yeah.
The working video title, which might get changed a little, but the current title is "The Last Jedi: You Come from Nothing," which has always been one of my favorite quotes from that film.
Right. Something that was ruined in Episode 9, right?
Yeah. See, Episode 9, they went a different direction, and one that I don't even mind. I do mind that they brought back Palpatine. That was a mistake, but. I don't mind what they did with Rey Skywalker at the end. Like, she rejects a family lineage that has abused and tortured her, and she instead chooses one that she reveres and that she identifies with. Yeah, that's pretty wholesome to me.
Yeah, okay.
I don't mind. I thought it was ridiculous, and the way they did it was terrible.
Yeah,
but the idea is not wrong.
I mostly just didn't like that they kind of went against what The Last Jedi was doing, which I actually kind of liked with that whole thing.
That's why I hate the film with a passion. Yeah. Other than that, it was horribly put together, just like visually.
Oh yeah.
The saturation seemed to be at 200% the whole time, and I don't understand why. But
yes,
everywhere except Exegol, everywhere else, they did so much stuff. It just looks like a bad fan film, and I choose to not accept its existence. But The Last Jedi had this really interesting idea that actually your origin story doesn't much matter if you can change yourself now.
Right.
It's this very anti-traditionalist and very more importantly, against this sort of doctrine of heredity, which especially now too, but especially in 2017 when it was released, was very relevant. And still, you have the far right who are obsessed with, heritage and heredity and race, of course, right? In the most extreme cases, they talk about how they need to restore the white ethno-state, stuff like that. So you have them, they're obsessed with heritage and heredity. And then on the far left, you have people who want us to pay reparations to people whose great-great-great-grandparents were slaves. Because, our ancestors were abused, so we deserve recompense. Really? So I have that. I have a couple more on Star Wars. I have one actually called Star Wars and the Banality of Evil, the thing we just talked about. I don't think I'm going to end up doing it, but it's an idea on the list. Don't get excited. I have one on Fallen Order. I don't know if I'm ever going to make that one either, too. If I do, it'll probably be after the second game is released. Or at least after the second game is, if it's confirmed not to be about Cal Kestis, then I don't really care. But I think it will be. I personally think it's going to be a continuation of his story. It has to be.
This is actually the first time I'm hearing the second game.
So Parks did a really good video on Fallen Order. That's how I found his channel, actually. But I want to do one on the way they explore trauma in particular in Fallen Order. I think because Star Wars is such an interesting, as a sort of modern mythology, it is such an interesting vessel for exploring all sorts of things in the real world that are really hard to talk about otherwise, but that provide a really nice gateway.
Yeah.
And this is this is one that I really want to do, but I'm going to have to rewatch Park's video and sort of write out my basic ideas to make sure we're not making the same video. I know he's not very happy with me at the moment because of the Star Wars video. Because, I did take certain things from him, which I know he wasn't super happy about. So I want to not repeat that, especially now that, I sort of am on more even footing. I know what I'm doing with the long-form videos. I don't want to do another version of his video, especially because he did touch on that subject. It wasn't the point of it, but he did touch on it. So I want to make sure, but I do want to do this video, especially because for me, there's a person who I know, who's very close to me, who has dealt with trauma after trauma after trauma, and I've actually used certain quotes from the game to help them. So this is a really important thing for me, this understanding how trauma works. And Fallen Order did such a good job of it. They could have screwed it up really badly, but instead they showed, that's kind of how it works, minus the Force flashbacks and lightsaber fights, but kind of, that's sort of how it works. It scars you internally for years, decades. You need people to help pull you out of that, right? Because he needed Cere Junda and Grease and Marin, or Marin, whatever. He didn't have that for 5 years, and he was kind of just on his own, wallowing in his sort of trauma from Order 66, which I always found to be fascinating. Ever since the first time I played it, and then especially after I watched Park's video and a couple of other videos, I'm like, there's a video here. There's a topic here for me to talk about. So there's that. There's a long list. I'm going to try to fire off some of these because these are all I could talk about for a long time. There's one on the Bad Batch. It's going to be very comprehensive. It's going to talk about all sorts of stuff. The Rise of the Empire, the whole individuality versus programming thing with the clones, good soldiers follow orders, that whole idea. That's going to be interesting, but I'm not doing that. I know Parks is... I keep coming back to him because the whole media analysis thing was born out of his videos. But I know he's doing Bad Batch right now. I'm not. I'm waiting till the end of the show. We're getting season 2, hopefully
at
season
some
3.
Point. At some point.
I think probably next year. We know it's next year.
Possibly. I would think so, yeah.
They said 2022, but I don't know when, and nor does anybody else. Hopefully May 4th.
That would make sense.
That would make sense. Yearly thing, right? Yeah. But I'm gonna do a video on that whenever that show finishes. There's already enough there for me to make a video on, and there will be so much more when it's done. I'm really excited to do that, but I'm holding myself back. Let's see. I have one on Lord of the Rings. It's very conceptual at the moment. There's not much to talk about. It's just a video about the sort of way they talk about the idea of power corrupts in Lord of the Rings with the rings.
Yes.
The ring, yes. The one ring in particular.
There's that could definitely be a really interesting one. Lord of the Rings is great.
Lord of the Rings shaped my development a lot because my dad read The Hobbit to me at age 6, and by the time I was 8, I myself had read all of Lord of the Rings. So
yeah,
that was important for me.
I've still never read Lord of the Rings, but I love the movies. So the trilogy. So.
The films are fantastic. They're not very accurate to the book for the most part, but that's fine because they're still really good films. Yeah. And of course, when I do my video, I'll be basing it off the book, but the footage is all going to be from the films.
Well, right. That makes sense because
there's that. There's a slightly more developed idea because I played this game very recently. I replayed. Have you heard of this game, Shadow of Mordor?
Love that. Yeah, I've mentioned to him every once in a while when we were watching Lord of the Rings.
Play it. It's really good.
It is.
Play it and then play Shadow of War. It's a fantastic game. Throughout my entire playthrough of Fallen Order, I was like, oh, it's Shadow of Mordor in Star Wars. It's like halfway there. It's not quite, but it's got those influences, and it's very easy to see how.
Yeah. So currently we're going to be doing gaming videos. On our WABAN channel, and it's mostly going to be me playing a video game and Cub kind of watching and watching me play like
streams,
like a game that I've never played before, but he has played, and kind of my reactions, because I've never been a big gamer. I've never played a lot of games. So currently we've already actually finished recording me playing all of Portal. So that's where we're starting.
Big gamer. I have maybe 20 games on my computer.
Yeah, no, I don't.
A lot, but out of those, how many do I actually, play? So
yeah,
I'm definitely not. I would call myself a gamer in that I play video games, but I'm not like a hardcore gamer where I'm like, this game is coming out, I have to get it now.
Well, you're definitely probably more of a gamer than me. So,
yeah,
probably
because I already found out that you've played some Star Wars games. You played that Lord of the Rings game. What's it called? Shadow of Mordor?
Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor.
Here's the thing. At least half of my games are from Star Wars, and that has nothing to do with the video. It's just kind of how it shaped out in my life, where half my video games were Star Wars related.
Yeah. I mean, I've played Lego Star Wars, so...
Let's go over the list. I have 3 of the Battlefront games. I have 2004, 2005, 2017. I have Lego Star Wars Complete Saga, Lego Star Wars The Clone Wars. I have Fallen Order. I have Republic Commando. I know I have another one. It's not on my desktop, but it eludes me, but I'm too lazy to open Steam. I have a lot of Star Wars games. Too many.
Yeah. Right. I have
Shadow of Mordor, that thing I was talking about.
Yeah.
Shadow of Mordor, I think, has a really interesting story that absolutely nobody talks about. I was playing through it on stream, and I was starting to notice, and you wouldn't think, like, when I'm on stream, casually just relaxing, distracted by the chat and everything. But no, I actually noticed a very interesting thread, especially because I was in that media analysis headspace. I noticed a very interesting theme that runs through Shadow of Mordor and the sequel game, Shadow of War, which is definitely going to be a part of that video. Is it going to be called probably Shadow of Mordor? The title is Shadow of Mordor, Vengeance and Power, which are the 2 main themes of the game. How vengeance impacts the psyche and how, again, power corrupts, because Lord of the Rings.
Right.
It's probably going to be called Shadow of Mordor, just because that's a more recognizable name. but it's going to go over both games because the story of the main character. I'm gonna try not to spoil too much for you because you haven't played it. But the story of the main character Talion is that he's a guardsman on the border of Mordor. He's a soldier of Gondor. And orcs or Uruks attack their little outpost. His entire family gets killed. And this is all stuff in like the first 5-10 minutes of the game. So they do not give you any breathing room.
They give you like this nice like
your family gets murdered.
Yeah, but they give you this nice little like wholesome scene beforehand as a tutorial,
so
and then
nice.
They destroy it.
It's so peaceful.
It's
like, you thought this was going to be nice. Done.
Like they teach you how to stealth kill by having you sneak up on your wife to hug her. It was like so cute, and then just ruined.
So nice. Yeah, the first time they have you use the sneak attack is when you go to kiss your wife. It's so nice. And then the next scene is genocide. So it goes hard. It's rated M for a reason. But and thankfully my parents couldn't care less. But because the first time I played it I was like 14.
Right. Yeah.
But so this guy Talion, he gets killed too, but instead of dying, he is, as the game puts it, banished from death. He is not allowed to die, and his body is merged with another kind of undead spirit that's not being allowed to die. This elf, who we don't know the name of, we learn later. And their entire quest is find the guy who put this curse on us and kill him. And let us die so that we can be with our families. And something really interesting happens at the end of the game where you kill the final boss, lamest boss battle in the world, by the way. But you kill the final like bad guy who put the curse on you. You are allowed to die now if you want to. But then he chooses not to. He says, "No, we're continuing this. We're going to take down Sauron." And that's the story of. Then that goes into Shadow of War. They're fighting. Shadow of Mordor is like one man's fight against this insurmountable army. Shadow of War is, as the name suggests, it is a war. It is you leading armies against the forces of Mordor. And so we see how Talion's quest for revenge and for absolution becomes a quest of power for himself. And when the elf leaves him, he takes one of the rings of power and becomes one of the Nazgul. That's the end of the story. The good guy becomes the bad guy.
Yeah.
Okay. I think I heard something about that's how it like ends. Yeah.
And I've always loved that story so much, but now that I'm looking at things through an analytical lens, I noticed that, and I know that's a video that I could make and one that I will make. Let's see. I have one on Indiana Jones. Very, very poorly formed idea. Might just not do it eventually. I have one on the Martian Chronicles and just the themes within that. The Ray Bradbury, not the Martian. Those are two different things. I have one on BoJack Horseman, which is going to be another big comprehensive video. Show. I know. I watched it. I watched it just as it was finishing the final season. It's phenomenal. It is one of my favorite shows.
One of my favorites.
All of my favorite shows are animated. Avatar, Clone Wars, Gravity Falls, BoJack Horseman, Phineas and Ferb. They're all animated.
Yeah. I mean, some of my favorites are animated too. I mean, I think even though I only watched it for the first time like a year ago, Avatar is like probably my actual favorite show.
Yeah, probably second for me after Clone Wars. But speaking of, I have a video on Avatar. Not quite sure what yet because there's a lot of different things to talk about there.
Definitely, yeah. There's a whole
lot. There's Amon. There's Zahir. There's the entire conflict of the first show. So that's I'm not sure on that.
Oh yeah, it's been a while since I watched Legend of Korra. I only watched Legend of Korra once actually because I didn't like it.
I've watched both shows a million times by now. So
I didn't like it as much as Avatar. I think it was.
I don't think anybody did.
There's just. Yeah, it was interesting, but it was one of those where it was like a mixed bag of like, there's some stuff that I really liked, some stuff that I really didn't.
There's some stuff that I really like. No, let's put it like this. There's some stuff I really liked, and there's season 2.
Well, that's true. That's true.
That's cool. That's the duality of Korra.
There you go. Whereas like Avatar was like, I liked the entire thing, and there was very few things I didn't like. You know, like
even the worst episode is pretty all right.
Yeah, it's like it's just kind of a harmless episode that's like whatever.
I have one Codename Kids Next Door, a show that everybody seems to have forgotten about.
I haven't seen that in
I love that.
so long, but I loved that when I watched it as a kid. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I don't have a title for it yet, so right now it's just written down as Codename KND video, but it's going to be, I don't know if I'm actually going to end up doing it. It's just an idea I got when I saw it on TV a couple months ago, and I was reminded that it exists, about the whole dynamic between kids and parents that sort of explores.
Right.
I probably won't end up doing it, but it's on the list, so, you know. There's BoJack Horseman I mentioned. That one's going to be a very comprehensive video about willpower and addiction and celebrity culture.
Right.
I mean, it's a very, there's a lot to talk about in that show. Family.
There's a lot.
Let's see. There's one on Shang-Chi, the most recent Marvel film. And I don't like Marvel films. I don't watch them really. But I watched this one because I was going for a friend's birthday, and I found it to be very compelling.
I haven't seen it yet, so
I won't say much then, but it's a really good film with really interesting themes about loss and how that can affect a family.
Interesting, yeah, because I feel like I never really, like, when I saw the trailers and stuff, I was never like, ooh, this looks really good. I was like, oh, this might be
I didn't even know
right.
it was being made. I didn't know it was being made until my friend said, hey, we're going to see this for my birthday. You want to come?
Yeah, it's, you know, I feel like
completely blind.
Yeah. There's the latest. I usually keep up with Marvel pretty well, but like the latest couple movies I haven't seen yet. That and like what is it? Black Widow was the one. I haven't seen those yet. But
let's see. Then I have 3 sort of more less directed into a certain media property, and these are the last 3, and so we can move on from this. But there's 3 sort of broader ones which are not tied to a specific film one of them sort of is, but so the first one would be the problem with superhero films. And my whole thing is I don't mind superhero films. They're harmless fun most of the time. But there's also this idea that they push, which isn't horrible when you can actually recognize it and understand that it's just entertainment. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people think Thanos was right, which is scary. He wasn't, by the way. Genocide is a bad thing, kids. Even if it's indiscriminate genocide, it's still genocide of a certain kind, at least.
Well, it's
at the very least, he could have just doubled the resources, honestly.
Well, it's like people confuse the idea of like having a villain with a clear goals and motivations that make sense as being like sympathetic or like good.
You lead so nicely into the next video that I'm going to mention. But no, so that video is going to be about how I don't like how superhero films push this idea that a few glorious men push, the wheel of history, and that the rest of us have no impact on it. When, in truth, the great man theory is kind of bullshit.
Yeah.
All the way through.
Yeah, I actually, there was interesting, I've had ideas for like stories that I would want to write or like potential, because I want to get into like filmmaking and stuff anyways, but like potential stories, either films or like TV show type stories that I would like to like write and create that kind of go with that idea of like I mean, there's already been shows that have done this at this point, but that kind of sort of deconstruct the idea of like the superhero and stuff, but like in a different way than has already been done, different than like The Boys
there's this show on Netflix called Jupiter's Legacy, which I haven't watched it, but I know it deals with that exact question.
Yeah.
And I intend to. Also, apparently Matt Lanter was in it. Yay.
Yeah. There's a very specific take idea that I have for it that's different than a lot of the stuff that's already been done in that kind of area, but it's like. Yeah, so I really like sort of that idea of like, just taking the classic idea of a superhero and deconstructing it in a more like realistic way, I guess, or like,
more applicable way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that actually leads really nicely into the other one. Redeeming the Villain is the current title. And I don't like how so many stories nowadays are very enamored in this idea that every villain can be redeemed, everybody deserves a redemption, which is not true. I don't like the way a lot of media handles it, like every single bad guy we need to be sympathetic towards. No, there is evil in the world, there are bad people in the world, and some people deserve punishment. It's just that simple. That's going to be like Thanos, for example. Sure, he had understandable motives. So did Mussolini, and Stalin, and Mao Zedong, and especially Castro, but they're all still murderous dictators, right? So there's that. And then the last one, and not the most recent, but the last one that I'm going to mention that's on the list, is going to be called Face Your Destiny, which is going to be another... Really, these three are really just complaining about the way media handles stories nowadays. The idea being that I don't like how a lot of popular media portrays, meet your destiny as a good thing, when in the past, in Greek tragedies and Shakespeare and even in Star Wars, right? What does Vader say to Luke? He says, "Meet your destiny." That's not a good thing, is it? Because in a lot of old classical stories, destiny didn't mean, oh, this wonderful thing that I'm going to do. It's doom. It's another word for doom.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I want to talk about that. Like in my AP Lit class, we were reading Oedipus Rex, which is a perfect example of how Oedipus's fate of killing his father and marrying his mother. Yeah, it's his destiny, but it isn't very good, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure destiny is usually used as like, yeah, this is how you're gonna die.
Yep, that's how it used to be. Now it's this happy-go-lucky thing, of like, oh, I'm gonna save the world, yay! When in reality, it's I'm going to sleep with my mom.
I'm gonna kill my dad.
And gouge my eyes out.
And kill my dad, and then gouge my own eyes out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Sophocles, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go. That definitely does sound like you have a lot of interesting ideas, which
I have so many.
Hopefully a decent amount of them actually come to existence,
Yeah, see, here's the thing, because I've been going through some of the screenshots I send to my little inner circle of people who help with my videos. I've been going through some of those screenshots and looking at some of the things from the video list, and a good 2/3 of those are not on the list anymore because I just removed them.
Yeah. I think
the first time I saw that Star Wars video, I just thought there's so many things that you could do this with that are you definitely shouldn't do it with. It would just come out as absolute crap and be yeah, the political system for this story makes absolutely no sense, but I'm going to shoehorn it into a video.
There's little shitpost that I saw posted from I think a couple of days ago called something like, every video essay ever. And it's, hello, welcome to my 4.5-hour video about SpongeBob. Part 1, early cinema.
Right.
And I'm like, I feel personally attacked,
Yeah.
I would have loved if you just did it with Mario or something, trying to figure out the political system of the Mushroom Kingdom and just not being able to do it. It's like that old
game theory video from when game theory was actually good, about how Mario is a secret communist.
I feel like you could totally do that as something small like that, as an April Fool's video where you take it completely seriously, just something like that where it's something like a political system that's clearly not very well thought out or doesn't make any sense in media, but make it seem like a serious thing. Again, the Mushroom Kingdom.
I've wanted to do an April Fool's video forever, but I never got the chance.
Yeah, I haven't either. So I want to at some point, do something funny. That'd be good. But
someday, I hope someday, because I have a few ideas, but I don't have time for any of them.
Yeah, I love some April Fool's videos. Like and then like some of them that trick you. You click on it thinking it's one thing, and then it's something else, and it's like.
See, like what I want to do with my April Fool's video is I mentioned my buddy LSP. He does really interesting political analysis, and on April Fool's, he always does the best April Fool's videos I ever see on the site because they seem so serious. They seem like things he could actually believe. Not things he does believe, but things he could believe. So this year he did In Defense of Imperialism. Last year or the year before that, recently, last couple of years, he did In Defense of Child Labor. Right? These are things you could maybe see someone actually believing, and he makes an actual argument for it. Like very flawed argument, but he makes an actual argument for it, a full video, edited and everything. I want to do that. I want to argue for some crazy thing. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what yet. There's so many options.
Yeah.
In defense of political violence.
Yep, just go like crazy with it. In defense of, or you could even do like a person, maybe like either real life or fictional. Like in defense of.
Oh my god!
In defense of Sheev Palpatine or something like that.
No, that exists, and
that probably does. Yeah.
There's a series of videos called "The Empire Did Nothing Wrong." They're parodies, and I love them.
There's probably videos out there like that though that aren't parodies that are supposed to be serious for sure.
Probably. But I just get a horrible idea. In defense of mass shootings.
Oh.
Or like some crazy shit. In defense of lynching.
Just whatever. Yeah. Just the most insane
whatever
thing
crap I can pull out that seems like something somebody could actually believe.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, we're probably about the time that we would get ready to close out the podcast. So one thing before we do go, so we have been doing this thing where every time we have a guest on, we ask the guest for a movie suggestion for a movie for us to watch and then discuss. Because we do movie discussions, so whenever we have a guest, we like to get a suggestion from the guest. So
this one's hard because I don't watch many films.
Yeah, could
and
just
most
be
of the ones I have recently have been like Mel Brooks and Monty Python.
I would love to do Monty Python, but it is a comedy though, so
yeah,
might not work out.
Well, if you want to do on a comedy, there's a few. History of the World Part 1, one of my favorite films of all time. Holy Grail, of course, from Monty Python.
Right.
There's a film that we had to watch recently called The 12 Chairs, a Mel Brooks film. Not his best thing, but it's very entertaining, and it's just there's the word. There it is. It's just entertaining all around. Would highly recommend.
Yeah, because
I kind of have to disappoint you here because I haven't watched many films of late.
That's okay. I mean, it can even be like this is your favorite movie or a movie that's like kind of obscure that like you really like to recommend to people because of how good it is, or like I don't know, anything.
I don't know. I feel like The Truman Show isn't very obscure.
No, but I feel like I haven't seen the entire movie, and I've always wanted to.
Well, do that. I would definitely recommend The Truman Show. I've seen it twice.
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
Very good film.
From what I know, that's definitely one that could create some interesting discussion as well. So yeah, we could do that. The Truman Show. So after that, I guess we will get ready to close. So before we have our closing remarks, could you just go ahead and shout out all of your stuff, whatever you want?
Plug all my links.
Anything you want. Just say anything.
Let's see. I have I don't use social media on the whole. I have
smart.
Some social media accounts.
Smart.
So I have YouTube, I have Discord, I have Reddit, which I never use, and I have Twitter. So there's my YouTube channel, Arken the Amerikan. Both of those are spelled with K's because I'm funny and quirky like that. Then I have my Twitter, which you can find linked there, but the at is because I wanted to do a Spanish thing. It's Arken the Amerikan. On Discord, I mean, I'm not going to read out a link, but I have a Discord server. You feel free to join. I'm on there fairly often. It's linked everywhere on my channel, on the page, in every video. And I guess I have a Reddit account, but I never post there. I spam my video links, and I post on the Bad Batch subreddit. That's it.
Right. I feel like that's very brave of you, because I feel like most people who have a Reddit account wouldn't want to admit that they have a Reddit account.
See, because I have the difference that I never use
Right.
it.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah. So yeah, definitely check him out. Check out the Star Wars video. That's really good. And then if you want to see all the other stuff, I haven't seen many of your videos, but I'm not into a lot of political videos, so it's kind of like
can't blame you. It's a toxic environment to be in. Why do you think I spent 4 months on Star Wars?
Yeah, there you go. I've definitely seen parts. I remember I saw part of one, and it was definitely good. So yeah, check out Arken the Amerikan, and also, I'm trying to remember what else I need to say in closing. That's the thing, is like you go through a conversation, then you get to the closing, and you're like, wait, what do I say? We actually, WABAN, I think I mentioned this earlier, we have a WABAN YouTube channel that we've created. As this podcast is uploaded, I don't know if anything will be up there yet. Maybe not. I'll leave a link in the description so you can at least go to it. But yeah, basically I'm going to start posting the podcast there. And we're also going to be doing the gaming videos, which I had mentioned earlier. So that's exciting. We've already recorded Portal, and the editing of that's going to be happening soon. Hopefully, we don't really have a exact timeline of that, but we'll get around to it. And yeah, so that's exciting. But also, thank you for listening to WABAN Podcast. There are multiple places you can listen to it on. You can listen to it on my YouTube channel, which is called NIMTV. That's NIMTV. And pretty soon, maybe by the time this is uploaded, I don't really know, you might be able to start listening to some of the episodes on the WABAN YouTube channel as well. And you can also listen to the podcast on multiple audio platforms, that being Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, and Radio Public. So you should be able to listen to it on any of those platforms. And there's a new episode of WABAN every Saturday at noon Eastern Standard Time. So that's when you can expect a new episode. So next week, we are going to be continuing our discussion on Death Note, the anime, the TV show. I think we're going to talk about the next 10 or so, 10 or so episodes. No, Cub is the real weeb here. I'm new to the weeb community. You know, this is like the first anime that I'm actually watching.
I am corrupting
Burn it with slowly.
Fire. No. But yeah, no. So I've enjoyed those 6 episodes we've watched so far. So we'll talk about the next 10 or so episodes next week, I believe, is what we were going to do. So we'll continue talking about that next week, and the week after that, we are going to be talking about The Truman Show, the movie that we just got suggested. So that's our next 2 weeks planned out. So expect that. Look forward to that. Thanks, everyone, for listening to the WABAN Podcast. I have been your host, Nim.
And I'm Cub, the goodest boy.
And I've been me, I think.
Yes, there you go. Goodbye, everyone.
Adios.
Bye-bye.